US plus Russia versus China, you shouldn't have stolen our jet fighter. As President Donald Trump uses his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping to address trade and North Korean issues, he also may bring up China's theft of American intellectual property. Despite a cyber warfare truce, one defense analyst said China is probably still engaged in the theft of sensitive U.S. military technology. Hacking over the years is one of the reasons China has been able to narrow the gap with the U.S. in advanced missiles, drone technology, and even stealth aircraft. Also, a report predicts that by 2030 the Chinese could dominate artificial intelligence and exploit it for military purposes. At the same time, China is pressing its domestic tech firms to help the country's military to speed up the application of advanced technology. For example, when China wanted to build the J-20, a new stealth fighter jet, they were reportedly helped by industrial espionage. The J-20 became operational in September. There were said to be several prototypes of the plane, but the final sleek design resembles the F-22, a stealth fighter made by Lockheed Martin. China's smaller stealth fighter, called the FC-31 Gerfalcon, in development, is seen as a knockoff of Lockheed's F-35. What Beijing has been very good at is targeting U.S. defense contractors, getting into their computer systems through various types of essentially cyber warfare and stealing the designs of some of America's best military assets, said Harry Kazianis, Director of Defense Studies at the Center for the National Interest, a think tank founded by former President Richard Nixon. Although a U.S.-Chinese cyber hacking truce was announced in 2015, Kazianis and others remain skeptical it will matter over the long term. He says China could have agents in other countries still doing hacking or camouflage such activity through various methods. So we don't even have a good idea if they stopped, he said. It's obviously a huge problem. According to Kazianis, the Chinese have been able to hack into computer networks to steal designs and other information on U.S. carriers, advanced defense systems, as well as the F-22 and F-35 jets. Indeed, a federal grand jury in 2014 indicted a Chinese national for a computer hacking scheme that involved the theft of trade secrets from Boeing's C-17 military transport aircraft. The individual, who last year entered a guilty plea, also was accused of working with two co-conspirators based in China to steal military data about the F-22 and F-35 jets. The concern is China's supersonic J-20 could one day become a threat to the F-22 and the smaller F-35 fighters. The Center for Strategic and International Studies, a think tank based in Washington, said Beijing's J-20 has the potential to considerably enhance China's regional military strength. For one, the J-20s could give China an advantage should it want to use the warplane in a dogfight with the US or allies. Also, depending on its stealth capabilities, the J-20 could be used for strikes on Taiwan or US air bases. Then again, the J-20's design may make it susceptible to detection. It features angles that allow it to deflect radar emissions from the front, but reports suggest its signature reduction falls short elsewhere. Portions of the J-20's engines also may work against its stealth capabilities, according to CSIS. Almost every fighter in the world has some kind of emissions that come out with radar or communications devices just like radios that we can detect, said John J. B. Venable, a senior research fellow for defense policy at the Heritage Foundation, a Washington conservative think tank. When we can pick those emissions up, then we can actually find, fix and kill that fighter. Venable, a retired Air Force colonel, said the U.S. military's ability to mask emissions is very good, and our ability to detect is very good. We just don't know what theirs is with the J-20. Cheaters never prosper, says Russia. Remember that Russian carrier-based jet that China copied without permission? Those airplanes are crashing, and Russia doesn't seem too broken up about it. Though Russia and China are now friends, even holding joint exercises, Russia's Sputnik News recently trotted out an article titled "Chinese Navy Short on Carrier-Based Fighters, Only Has Problem-Ridden J-15." The J-15 is an unlicensed copy of Russia's Su-33 carrier jet, which is a 1980s derivative of the Su-27K land-based fighter. China had acquired a T-10K-3 and Su-33 prototype from Ukraine and then reverse-engineered it. With a barely disguised touch of schadenfreude, Sputnik News delved into the woes of the J-15. Love for the fourth-generation J-15 jet is seldom shown in Chinese circles, said the Russian news site. The Asia Times noted that Chinese media has disparaged the plane in numerous ways, including referring to it as a flopping fish for its inability to operate effectively from the Chinese carriers, which launch fixed-wing aircraft under their own power from an inclined ramp on the bow of the ship. The J-15's engines and heavy weight severely limit its ability to operate effectively. At 17.5 tons empty weight, it tops the scales for carrier-based fighters. The U.S. Navy's F-18 Workhorse, by comparison, is only 14.5 tons. Many shoppers on eBay and Amazon can attest to what happens when you buy unlicensed products, though one can ask how many of these problems began with the original Russian design. In any event, so many J-15s have crashed and burned that China is developing a new carrier jet, the J-31. After dissecting the J-15's flaws, Sputnik News then trotted out Russian military expert Vasily Kashin, who proceeded to explain why you shouldn't copy other nations' aircraft without permission. Years ago, the Chinese decided to save some money and, instead of buying several Su-33s from Russia for their subsequent licensed production in China, they opted for a Su-33 prototype in Ukraine, Kashin said. The development of the J-15 took more time and more money than expected, and the first planes proved less than reliable, said Kashin. By spending some more time and money, the Chinese will apparently solve the problems they now have and will get a fairly reliable and powerful carrier-based fighter. At this point, it is worth noting that the Soviet Union and post-Soviet Russia also had a habit of acquiring Western technology without the consent of the owners, for everything from the atomic bomb to the space shuttle and video games. It's actually a dubious accomplishment, an admission that a nation lacks the capacity to really innovate its own technology. Considering that China has the same habit, there is a poetic justice here. Michael Peck is a contributing writer for the National Interest.